So usually what we coach people up is to have two killings when let's say they're going into old pasture. It's filled with brome. Have 2 rounds of herbicide treatment to take existing cover plus seed bank out of unwanted invasives. Is that generally what you guys do too? Or do you work a burn in there somewhere? Let's say you're going from a straight brome field to, a fairly diverse prairie that you're wanting there.
Yeah. So if you don't have patience and you want it to happen now, herbicide is the way to do it. If you can tolerate several seasons of work, then introducing grazing and fire in a way that can help you reduce the vigor of what's there, and then using an herbicide application to finish.
How would you do that? You get free reign on the land. What would you? And you've got as many animals and herbicide or fire or whatever you want to do. It's with your imagination. What would you? When in the year would you start, and what steps would you follow over the next few years?
So let's just go with maybe a system that's dominated by smooth brome.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I like to run fire through that when the brome is flowering. In a typical year, that's late May or early June. Mm-hmm. It's a very slow, smoky fire. But what you'll find is that the brome regrows after that, but it's stunted all year. It gets about 2 inches tall, and it's very sparse. And so it isn't happy.
Yeah.
And so you could then go in a month or 2 later and graze it really hard. And so now you've smacked it twice in a growing season and can totally reduce its vigor.
How do you burn it when it's all green?
It's the thatch. It's
from
last
the year
year's
before.
material.
Okay.
That's what's carrying the fire.
Okay.
And then it's top killing the brome. And see, the brome has, at that point in the season, the brome has used its root reserves to leaf out and push out flowers. Mm-hmm. And so you've depleted its root reserves to an all-time low.
For no reward.
And then you zap it. Mm-hmm. And now it's got to use up the last of its root reserves to sprout again and regrow, and it just doesn't have much vigor. And so then if you go graze that, if it's what we already started talking about finances, right? So let's use the analogy of your bank account. If the tornado hits you and you're not insured and you now use all of your savings to rebuild your home, then if your home burns and you've depleted your savings, you have nothing to rebuild with, right? And so that's the position that we've put the brome in by burning it when it's at its lowest reserves and then grazing it as it's trying to come back. Now, anything that does come back, you can hit with herbicide and just, there's nothing left.
Are cows the best to graze with? Because they will go, because they'll go to dirt, really, right?
If they're forced to, yeah. Or they'll just push through the fence.
Yeah. So we've seen that quite a bit from our neighbors.
Yeah, I mean,
they like our fields.
Some people would tell you sheep because sheep graze down real tight.
Oh.
Cows are what we use because cows are readily available. I mean, cows are plentiful in Iowa. Mm-hmm. And then we also use cattle because we're trying to set this system up for the reintroduction of bison, and cattle most closely mimic bison. You know, sheep don't graze like sheep are farther from bison on the grazing spectrum than cattle are. So that's why we typically use cattle.
Just one burning and one grazing.
You could, if everything's properly timed, I think you could reduce the vigor enough that you could follow up with an herbicide application and be ready to plant.
Wow. So burn in the spring,
there you go,
graze that summer, spray it again that fall when the cool season are trying to come back, and then you can plant that fall.
I think so.
Man, wow. So for anyone who's got unlimited resources, there's a perfect plan for you.
Honestly, if you had enough regrowth coming after that burn, might be a nice favor to a neighbor who's got some livestock that they need to, as long as it's not super huge hassle to move them over to your field, and you have the infrastructure to keep them in your field while they're grazing. Podcast listener Derek sent me some photos recently of, he got some of those satellite collars that I think similar to what Adam
for
uses
cows?
for his goats, for his cows. So maybe that could be another application there too, is using some of those. But yeah, I like that. It's fun hearing some herbicide alternatives. And I think it would probably be wise, as small as this quote unquote industry is of prairie reconstruction, it would probably be wise for all of us to be looking at some glyphosate alternative methods in case we were to lose the ability to use it. And so it's always good to be adjusting in that way.